Crypto Clout, and on this episode we are of course mourning the loss, of course, looking across the board, so much red, so much sadness going around in the community, and I can understand the frustration. People who have not been involved with cryptocurrency for a very long amount of time like the rest of us, or those out there who jumped in during all-time highs, all the way across the board. I just want to come out and offer just consultation, and just a word of optimism for the community. I think that it's important for everybody to really come together in times like these and understand exactly the nature of the space that really is cryptocurrency. And of course, we're not going to see things go to the moon in a single day. These things take time, of course, and as we continue to move forward, I just want to come out and just I was watching this video by Crypto Zombie. I found was one of the best pieces of content on this topic. Where BTC, we've seen Bitcoin dominance rise, recently in this time frame. But I mean, just checking because it makes sense when times are hitting these rocky times like we're seeing now. Of course, people are going to panic and go up to the top, but like I said, I just find that it's important to offer just an optimistic perspective when it comes to these things, because I know that there's people out there who haven't been involved with cryptocurrency for a very long amount of time. There's those of us who've been involved with it for years, it is interesting to see, how these variables have been, coming together in such a short amount of time. And I would definitely say that, if you're feeling any particular way about, these things, maybe it's time to walk away from the computer and just, give it some time, because, you don't want to make any decisions that, that you're going to regret later. But then again, obviously all I can offer is my opinion. This is not financial advice or anything like that. You have to understand, I'm not your dad, but at the end of the day, it's important just to maintain a level head in times like these when we're seeing this sort of thing. And mainly the point that I want to get across is the fact that this is not uncommon in the world of cryptocurrency. And these crashes, you look at the board right here, and it tells the story of plenty of ups and downs, kingdoms rise and fall in the crypto space. So, as far as, these things go, it is important to, understand that there's going to be days that are totally in the red, and then there's going to be days totally in the green. So it ultimately depends on the research that you've done in regards to these technologies, and your overall optimism, and how you're really conducting yourself. It's important to be smart and take your time and really make the right decisions. I mean, we look at just checking out Twitter. If you guys are interested in connecting with me on Twitter, you can obviously find the link in the description, but it's at CryptoTuber nonetheless. So if you have any interesting information to send regarding cryptocurrency, it's always cool to see. It's interesting to be seeing these different variables as they've been coming together in really such a short amount of time. There's a lot of growth that the space needs to undergo, and what we talk about a lot on here is the public consciousness, and the fact that the greater mechanisms of society are ultimately moving towards the trend of the advantages that are made possible by the digital era. So when it comes to these things, people who can predict the future and see, I know I can't predict the future, and I don't pretend to, but I think that it is interesting to see these things as as they've been developing and moving forward. And of course, you know, people talk about the hacks that have been happening, but of course it really all seems to come together in the same time. I mean, these like Congress getting involved and all these various different things, and Apple banning crypto, of course, you know, the various blockings, and how diversifying increases investor risk. I mean, I understand this. I mean, I was reading a lot of these articles earlier, and I mean, of course, and then big one, you know, this is a big one too. So of course it is interesting to see how these things have been developed. Bitcoin to 1K, Alex says, Alex in the chat. I mean, hey, I hear you. I've been on since you've been on since that long. Hey, yeah, well, that's kind of cool. I've been pretty much around this crypto game. Well, if you want a little bit of backstory, I've definitely been interested in it since 2009, 2010. Was definitely a time when, you know, people were only talked about it on places like Habbo and RuneScape and so forth. You know, I was really into these gaming you know, communities and so forth, and you know, it's grown and developed and come a long way since then. And you know, in a short amount of time, from you know, in a few years from now, we'll be seeing cryptocurrency you know, going in a, you know, so is this the end of cryptocurrency? If your answer is no, then hodl. So what do you think I should put for this guy? Should I put yes or no? Should I put yes or no? You guys think cryptocurrency is dead? Anybody? I mean, I'm gonna put no. I'm gonna put no. I'd say hodl. Definitely. So if you guys are interested in that, I retweeted that, so you guys can check out that poll, and maybe, you know, I mean, I find that interesting though. I mean, 81% of the people, but also you have to take into consideration that the people who probably follow cryptocurrency hashtag, or, you know, people who get you know, who see this are ultimately interested in crypto. So you know, it's like, you know, it's not, they're not people who, you know what I'm trying to say there, they're not people who are interested in crypto. So it's sort of a self-selecting results there. You know, it's generally people who are going to click that. But all that being said, I mean, there is a lot of misinformation going out there. A lot of people saying no, but as a Bitcoin miner, the loads are yeah. So but yeah, I mean, ultimately, I mean, I would say, I mean, although we do see Bitcoin dominance where it is currently, and it is I mean, and of course, I mean, at 39.9%, I mean, it is interesting to be to see what's happening. I mean, but I ultimately think that long term, if I were to give my perspective on this, I would say that Bitcoin will eventually be taken over by one of the altcoins. I would say one that leverages the potential of the altcoins that leverage the potential of smart contracts will ultimately, or I would also say something like Nucleus Vision. I mean, in the long term, you know, it would we would see something that has more of like a real world functionality. It's funny to see Tether at in the green. That's sort of an indication of the people who are jumping out of their crypto and into Tether. But I mean, hey, I mean, people do what they got to do. You know, if people are panicking, then that's up to them. But I mean, it is interesting to see how these things have been developing. And of course, if anybody out there is feeling sad because, you know, you're seeing that your investment is going, you know, nowhere or whatever, it's going down the chute. You know, this community is here to give you you know, positive you know, positivity and stuff like that. I mean, that's the whole purpose of you know, all this. So obviously, you know, XRP to 22 cents. You think? I mean, let's check out let's talk about XRP. I mean, it's currently at 55 cents. But of course, I mean, I would, for me personally, I can only really give my opinion. But I would say that XRP is one of those technologies that a Litecoin to $50, yeah, I agree. But no, I'm just kidding. Anyway, yeah, but when it comes to Ripple, I would say that it definitely is a long-term one that I'm paying attention to, because it's one of those technologies that's definitely making the deals with the establishment, and you know, a lot of these different variables that we've seen coming together in such a short amount of time involving Ripple. I would say that even Ripple might be one of the technologies that eventually outdoes Bitcoin in the long run, because the establishment really doesn't play to lose. They're really not going to allow these things, but I definitely I mean, it is interesting to see how these things have been coming together in such a short amount of time. And I mean, certainly that we do have a bumpy road ahead of us, and you definitely have to have tough skin if you're, you know, anywhere around crypto. So you know, just some food for thought, basically. I would say that I'm looking forward to crypto in the long term, just because this is you know, it's where the advancements really are, and the innovations as far as the greater expansion of society and so forth. So yeah, I'm definitely interested in seeing where things go. I mean, just plummeting off the ground, I mean, but then again, you know, I'm willing to ride some of these, the ones that I believe in, to the ground, because I see the long-term perspective, and of course, you know, there are people, I mean, I find these are interesting. Textbook rounding bottom has occurred, momentum of the shorts has taken over, and we are breaking above a critical area of resistance. And I mean, I don't know, when I think about Litecoin, I mean, I always I mean, wow, it's below $100 currently. I mean, that says a lot. In just a very short amount of time, we just see it going boo, plop, just continuing down. So how far is it going to go? That's the question that's on everybody's mind, is how far are things really going to plummet at this current time period. And I mean, if I knew that, I'd be a wizard, and I'd tell you. I mean, I'd know. I mean, I'd probably keep it to myself, honestly, but I'm being honest here. You know, looking at the way that these things have been developing, I mean, it is interesting to see how the space has made so many things possible, but ultimately, I mean, we are looking at you know, a lot of a bumpy road moving forward. And you know, so all that being said, you know, massive favorite money. I don't get people of today. Sometimes it took what's your point there? It took 400 years for society. I mean, society moves much faster these days. I mean, we'll see society adapt to crypto and shorter, I mean, things. It's a, you know, it's a amplified growth curve, but I mean, I would say neo, you know, the smart economy. I mean, it's really what my question really is, and the way that I'm trying to look at it, is which of these technologies is going to actually what I would say in the perspective that I would take of it is which of these is going to rise from the ashes of the old paradigm as we continue to move forward into the new paradigm, as things continue to be shifting. But I mean, it is interesting to see how these variables have been coming together in such a short amount of time. Yeah, all that, I mean, you know, just looking at all the things that are happening involving the news, I mean, on this topic. I mean, you have to understand that these numbers that we see on here are due to international variables. You know, all these things come together, you know, it's not necessarily a reflection on any one of these technologies specifically. The market's pretty much just bad as things currently exist, but you really have to just do your research when it comes to the technologies and the potential that's in store. But all that being said, which ones do you guys want to talk about? Let's see some names of some cryptos in the comments. XRP, a lot of people keep mentioning XRP, but we'll always talk about XRP because you know, it's really one of those technologies that has a lot of interest from the banks, yeah, I mean, Charlie Lee wants y'all to sell. Yeah, I'd imagine. And but yeah, I mean, looking forward, I mean, things are fundamentally interesting. I mean, Syndicator is an interesting one. I mean, down 15%, of course, but I mean, it has been around undoubtedly. It has a history, and of course, visiting the all-time highs back in January. But I mean, I've done a lot of research into Syndicator, and I think that this is certainly an interesting one to pay attention to as things continue to move forward. I mean, it's really one of those technologies where I pay attention to the roadmap and a lot of these different variables as they've been. I mean, but I mean, Syndicator definitely, I think it's a long-term perspective as far as you know. It's it's definitely innovating in a large to a large extent. But nulls, yeah, we'll check this one out. I've talked about this one plenty of times. You guys might be tired of it, but we'll go into it. 17, negative 17. Wow, that's crazy. But of course, I mean, like we were talking about yesterday. I mean, where are we? We're exactly where we were, you know, in November, December. The point is, that's still some outrageous growth. Like, if people talked about going from here to here in that short amount of time, and even maintaining that, I mean, even taking that out of the question, if cryptocurrency was the stock market, it would be really interesting to see all the news articles that we would be seeing of people going out of their mind over stocks. But this isn't stocks, this is crypto, and it's volatile. It's a volatile space, and you know, you're going to see days when things are completely you know, people get sad, but you know, and because of the fundamentals in Bitcoin and cryptocurrency period going up, do you think the next BU run will be what John McAfee predicted, or do you think he's full of crap? Well, he's definitely full of the second one, but John McAfee, have you seen that movie with John McAfee? I mean, I don't know if the next one will be the one that he predicted, but I like to hope. I like to have, I mean, he's one of those guys who you look at that's he's just a funny character. I hope he runs for president. John McAfee, I think, is one of those people who have an interesting perspective on the internet and the future of the internet and the potential that's in store. He definitely is a G. Yeah, I don't think John McAfee is your dad, but he looks like a dad. He's probably someone's dad. But yeah, I mean, I think that moving forward, it's ultimately the long-term perspective, I think, does sort of run parallel to the McAfee. But I mean, obviously there's I don't think he's entirely, I mean, I have mixed feelings about it. But I think that to a large extent, I mean, it's hard to ignore when he talks about like the decline of you know, the USD and inflation and all these different things. So I mean, who's to say exactly? But I mean, ultimately, and yes, I am not your dad, of course. You know, I mean, remember that I'm not a financial advisor. This is just my opinion. And of course, I mean, just looking at what people are talking about, stay positive. Manipulation at its finest happening right now. Just ask yourselves, why should BTC be dipping? Well, David, I mean, there are a multitude of reasons, but manipulation is certainly a big part of it, so I'm inclined to agree. The Last Stand, oh my god, it's it really is a defining moment right now, and you know, let's all just pray. But I'm just saying, if things continue to get worse, McCafe or $2 at McDonald's right now. Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, to answer your question, I really can't answer that. That's just your own decision. But yeah, definitely check out this video. Crypto Zombies are really a great channel. But yeah, so I mean, all that being said, I mean, yeah, we are seeing a lot of things coming together. And I mean, some people would call it a buying opportunity, and some people would call it crap. And it's just important not to let it get to your head. You know, you got to be a G. You got to be a G. You got to be like Tekashi 69. You know, you got to be cool. I noticed your portfolio contains 90% alts. I also like to live dangerously. I know, but that's a funny meme. I'm gonna retweet that. It's funny. It's funny. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, I mean, moving forward, pretty fair answer, my guy. Thanks. Yeah, no, John. This is great. You hope it falls lower. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who share your sentiment. And I mean, in a way, I kind of hope it does too. I mean, I would honestly wouldn't mind seeing Bitcoin down at $50. Then we can start all over. No, I'm just kidding. But if that happened, I mean, it's always important to make your decisions and plan accordingly, because you know nothing lasts forever. But when it comes to crypto, you got to be G. Exactly, you got to be G if you're going to be in crypto, my G. Holding and buying other cryptos on sale. Yeah, I mean, I just like to see the positivity out there, because that's the only way that we're gonna survive, right? But I mean, like I said, you know, this number on here is due to a multitude of variables, and yeah, I mean, all that. I mean, that's about it. I mean. Wow, that's a weird. This doesn't like. Why doesn't any like? Why are there so many weird things when you say? I just want Neo. Like, pump gotta melt. See, I think Neo is one of the most interesting cryptos moving forward. I don't think China is playing to lose either. I think that you know, China getting involved in things is certainly an interesting indicator of the trends that we're going to be seeing as we continue to move forward. And ultimately, I'm pretty excited to that regard. And I think that, you know, it's important to stay alert on these things. I mean, a lot of young kids involved in crypto. Just found out about this new, all right. That's a good meme. Neo is not your Neo will be king. You know, a lot of different opinions on Neo. I understand, you know, there's people who are haters, and then there's people who you know, I mean, obviously we're seeing the market where it is today, and it's, you know, it's affecting everything across the board, which is why, I mean, I actually had a video on Cardano planned for today, but I just decided to continue to cover the crash. I mean, the current situation and dynamics involving this thing, because I mean, what else? I can't really come on here and say, I mean, you know what I mean? Talk about how something might be mooning in the future, but currently people who are holding it are, you know, seeing all this stuff in the red. It just doesn't seem right. You know, cryptocurrencies look like a crash in the next week. Look like a crash. You know, you got to TRON Tron loved Neo, now you're dead. Salt had one of the biggest drops over the last 7 days. People will use salt lending against when the market moves higher. Salt. Yeah, that's pretty big. 14%. I mean, I'm not currently involved with salt, so I didn't really, this wasn't really on my radar, but it's one of those ones that it's definitely on the radar for the long term, and it is on sale along with many others. So December, January. Oh, this is gonna be funny. Crypto expectations. That is very correct, my man. But I mean, yeah, I just have one question. When Lambo? This is a funny meme too. And that's pretty much what's happened. I mean, if you wanted a visual representation of what's happening, it would have been that meme right there. That's yes, thank you, Salt, Loom Network, NCASH. Yeah, NCASH is a good one. We were talking about the Internet of Things on here. We were talking about the new doors that are really being open as we move forward and we see these technologies that are ultimately revolutionizing the potential that's made available by retail. And I would say retail is one of those spaces that's desperately in need of an overhaul. I would say that when you look at stores like Sears and Toys R Us and all these different old companies that are being forced to close their doors and go out of business because they haven't stayed up to date with the times, they're getting dominated by things like Amazon and all these different smartphones and these different things. But the one thing that comes to mind is when you think about these variables is you think about the fact that NCASH makes it possible for the retail outlets to leverage the data that the consumers bring with them into the store via their cell phones. And ultimately, this is going to be a huge paradigm shift when you take into consideration a lot of how these trends have been advancing, and the fact that NCASH has this leverages the membership program, which ultimately through crypto. I mean, obviously it's like I said, -10, but it's a reflection of market cap to a large extent. We've seen better days with NCASH, but then again, 1 cent for NCASH right now. That's amazing. 1 cent. I mean, this is not, obviously, like I said, not financial advice. I'm just saying, but like 1 cent, I don't know. Everybody knows what I'm thinking. Everybody knows what my opinion is already. I've talked about NCASH, and we've gone over this, but I mean, nucleus vision, connecting the unconnected. I mean, the Internet of Things is going to be huge. I mean, you really can't argue against the Internet of Things in a lot of ways. There's a lot of variables. I mean, Fortnite Pro. I mean, this is what I'm going to be spending my nights. No, I'm just kidding. But Fortnite is lit. But I'm just saying, like, it is a multitude of variables, and everybody's responsible for your own decisions. So yeah, I mean, did you guys have any final things that you guys would want to discuss? Now would be the time. Include them in the comment section. And but yeah, I think Litecoin kind of is trash. I mean, I'm not shitting on Litecoin because it is connected to the, hey, look, it's back up to 100. So in the time of making this video, it's dropped below and then gone back up, and then so it's all over the place. We're seeing a lot of things coming together. Deep brain chain. I do gotta get me some of that deep brain chain. DBC. DBC. -6. Not terrible. At 6 cents. Artificial intelligence. Kind of gets you thinking, doesn't it? Artificial intelligence is going to be big. There's no question about it. Artificial intelligence computing platform driven by blockchain. People, this is a match made in heaven. I'm definitely excited, and especially the connections that Deep Brain Chain has with Neo. We've already talked about Neo. Electronium. What about ETN? Let's check it out. Let's see how ETN's doing. Because Electron wasn't doing terrible. I mean, it's obviously not. I mean, it's hard to, you know, obviously, you know what I'm not going to sit here and apologize for every single cryptocurrency on here, you know. But Electronium, nonetheless, I mean, mobile mining, it's definitely connecting the unconnected. You know, mobile mining is going to be, it gives the potential for somebody in like Africa to send crypto to somebody in the United Kingdom and participate in leveraging the potential that's made available by their smartphone. And more people are getting Apple blocked mining apps. ETN is dead. That is definitely going to hurt Electronic. I definitely agree. We do see these articles coming up talking about that, but that, you know, we have to understand, Apple's not the only smartphone out there. You know, I think that it will hurt Apple in the long run for them to be blocking mining apps. And I think that ultimately we'll see another technology rise up in its place. And no, but ETN is still quite new. Yeah, that's pretty much where I was going with that. Apple's dead. Yeah. Well, hey, look where Apple is connecting themselves to. I mean, you look at, like, you know, Apple and Ripple. I mean, it's obvious the way that they want it to be, like, packaged up and already, you know, mining is too, like, hands-on for Apple. Apple is very, you know, if you just look at their products, you know, the way that they try to, it's pretty much against the idea of Apple. But I mean, obviously we're going to see kingdoms rise and fall in the wake of these developments and as they move forward. But I hope that you guys have enjoyed the content, and I will